Number 10. Enron, the company that lied about everything and then some. Imagine you have a lemonade stand. You tell everyone your lemonade stand made $1 million last summer. People get excited. They give you money to invest in your lemonade stand. There's just one tiny problem. You never actually made $1 million. You made $11 and a warm feeling inside. That is essentially what Enron did, except instead of lemonade, it was energy. And instead of $11, it was billions in fake profits. Enron was once considered the most innovative company in America. Executives cooked the books so spectacularly that accountants at their auditing firm, Arthur Andersen, literally shredded documents to hide the evidence. When everything collapsed in 2001, around 20,000 employees lost their jobs and their retirement savings simultaneously. The CEO, Jeffrey Skilling, got 24 years in prison. The lesson here is that if you're going to lie about money, maybe do not also lie about your accounting firm lying about the money. Just a thought. Number 9. WorldCom. When the second biggest fraud in history is somehow not the most interesting story in the room. WorldCom was a telecommunications giant that decided the best way to handle $3.8 billion in expenses was to simply pretend those expenses were investments instead. If you have ever paid a bill and wished it just did not exist, congratulations, you have the same financial philosophy as WorldCom's CFO Scott Sullivan. The fraud eventually ballooned to $11 billion, making it one of the largest accounting frauds ever recorded at the time. CEO Bernie Ebbers, a Sunday school teacher by hobby, got 25 years in prison. The irony of a Sunday school teacher running the second biggest corporate fraud in history is not lost on anyone. WorldCom filed for bankruptcy in 2002, which at the time was the largest bankruptcy filing in American history. It held that record for a full 2 months before Enron enthusiasts pointed out they had already done it first and worse. Competition is healthy, apparently, even in bankruptcy. Number 8, Theranos, a billion-dollar company built on a machine that did not work. Elizabeth Holmes had a vision. She wanted to revolutionize blood testing using a tiny device called the Edison that could run hundreds of tests from a single drop of blood. Investors loved it. The media loved it. The board loved it. The only thing that did not love it was reality. The Edison machine barely worked and could not actually perform most of the tests it claimed to perform. The company was secretly using regular lab machines from other companies to process blood samples while telling patients. The results came from their revolutionary technology. People made serious medical decisions based on inaccurate test results. Holmes was convicted of fraud in 2022 and sentenced to 11 years in prison. She became one of the most studied cases in startup culture, proving that a compelling vision, a turtleneck, and a very deep voice can take you surprisingly far before the entire thing implodes spectacularly. Number 7. The 2008 financial crisis. When banks broke the entire planet and nobody really went to prison. Picture a game of hot potato, except the potato is a mortgage nobody can actually afford, and the music is the entire global economy. Banks were handing out home loans to basically anyone who walked through the door and then bundling those bad loans together and selling them to other banks and investors as if they were perfectly fine financial products. Rating agencies called these toxic bundles AAA-rated investments. That is the highest possible rating. They rated bad debt the same way you would rate a 5-star restaurant. When the housing market collapsed in 2008, the financial system nearly collapsed with it. Millions of people lost their homes, their jobs, and their savings. The government bailed out the banks to the tune of $700 billion. The banks then paid their executives bonuses. Not a single major bank executive went to prison. And somehow everyone just kind of moved on. We are all fine. Number 6. Volkswagen Emission scandal, the car company that built a lying car. Volkswagen spent years marketing their diesel cars as clean, efficient, and environmentally friendly. It was a beautiful story. The only problem was their cars were actually pumping out nitrogen oxide emissions up to 40 times above legal limits. How did they hide this? They programmed the cars to detect when they were being tested and temporarily switch into a cleaner mode just for the test. As soon as the test ended, the car went right back to its original polluting behavior. 11 million cars worldwide were fitted with this defeat device software. Volkswagen paid over $30 billion in settlements and fines. The CEO resigned. Several executives faced criminal charges, and somewhere out there, a Volkswagen diesel car is still probably judging you while producing 40 times the legal limit of emissions. It passed its emissions test, technically. Number 5. Bernie Madoff, the man who stole $65 billion, one handshake at a time. Bernie Madoff ran the largest Ponzi scheme in human history. For decades, he told investors their money was being carefully invested and generating consistent returns. In reality, he was just using new investor money to pay old investors, which is how a Ponzi scheme works, and also how a very stressful juggling act works. The scheme ran for decades. Madoff was so respected in financial circles that people begged him to take their money. His returns seemed almost too good to be true, which it turns out was a clue available to everyone. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, too many people wanted their money back at once, and the whole thing collapsed. Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison. He died there in 2021. The number 150 is not a coincidence. It is a message, a very expensive, very long message. Number 4. Wells Fargo fake accounts scandal. When your bank opens accounts you did not ask for. Between 2002 and 2016, Wells Fargo employees opened approximately 3.5 million fake bank accounts and credit card accounts in real customers' names without their knowledge or consent. Why? Because the bank had aggressive sales targets and employees were terrified of losing their jobs if they did not meet them. So they just made up accounts. Customers discovered unexpected fees and dings on their credit scores without any idea why. The CEO, John Stumpf, initially blamed low-level employees before eventually resigning and paying a $17 million fine. The bank paid $3 billion in settlements. 3.5 million fake accounts is a lot of creativity for a place that also charges you $3 to use an ATM. Number 3. Brix Minerals, the gold mine that was actually just dirt with gold sprinkled on it. In the 1990s, a Canadian mining company called Brix claimed to have discovered one of the largest gold deposits in history in the jungles of Borneo. Investors poured billions into the company. The stock price went from pennies to over $200 per share. Geologist Michael de Guzman was reportedly salting core samples with real gold to fake the discovery. When independent experts were brought in to verify the find, de Guzman reportedly fell out of a helicopter before they could ask him any questions. The autopsy identified the body using dental records. The gold deposit did not exist. Billions of dollars evaporated almost overnight. The helicopter part is either the most suspicious or most convenient thing that has ever happened in corporate history, depending on how charitable you are feeling. Number 2, Seamen's bribery scandal, the company that bribed basically everyone everywhere. Seamen's, one of the most recognizable industrial companies in the world, spent years systematically bribing government officials in countries across multiple continents to win contracts. The company had a whole system for it, including slush funds, offshore accounts, and cash delivered in suitcases. Actual suitcases. The bribery operation was so organized and widespread that it almost looked more like a division of the company than a criminal enterprise. In 2008, Siemens paid $1.6 billion in fines to American and German regulators, which was at the time the largest foreign bribery settlement in history. To be fair, they did get a lot of contracts. Number 1, the South Sea Company, the original fraud that started before your great-great-great-great-grandparents were born. The South Sea Company was established in Britain in 1711 and was granted a monopoly on trade with South America. There was only one issue. Spain controlled most of South America and had no intention of letting Britain trade there. Rather than admit this problem, the company promoted its stock with wild, unverifiable tales of treasure and trade routes that simply did not exist. Investors went absolutely mad buying shares. Then the company allowed its own directors to sell shares at peak prices right before the whole thing collapsed. The resulting crash in 1720 wiped out thousands of investors and destabilized the British government. Isaac Newton himself lost the equivalent of millions of dollars in today's money. When asked about it later, he reportedly said he could calculate the motions of celestial bodies, but not the madness of people. If the father of physics could not spot a bubble, you have a great excuse for every financial decision you have ever made. If you like this video, I'm pretty sure you're going to like this next one too.